Welcome to the Daily Allegory through Astrological Divination. Today's video is the Crossroads of Will, Mercury, Papa Legba, and the Magician's Return. Today we visit using our voice to return the energy to sender and its source, and Papa Legba has a message at the end. So make sure you stay tuned. We're going to be doing an invocation of the gates and return to sender. Also, it is the energies of the full moon, so we're going to ask that Persephone and Papa Legba open the gates and the energies of this supermoon. I light this flame, a beacon at the crossroads. Papa Legba, Atiban Legba, ancient and wise I call to you. Guardian of the gates, holder of the keys, open the path that my words may travel, swift and sure. I humbly ask you to clear the way between the realms, that my intent may pass through unhindered and true. Hear my prayer, and make it known to the spirits that I call. We now invoke the messenger and the magician, Mercury and Hermes. We're going to focus on communication and manifestation of our intent with this one. Hail Hermes, Mercury, swift-footed messenger of the gods, master of intellect, communication, and a conscious mind. Inspire my words with keenness, wit, and adaptable power. I embody the power of the magician card, with wand to the sky and hand to the earth. As above, so below. All the tools are before me. My will shall be done. Grant me the skill to manifest my desire into physical reality. Now, we embody the intention of the request. Return to sender. Now, the purpose of this aspect is going to be to return any and all malicious and negative energy sent to us. Any illusions, any delays, any encumbrances, any liens on our energy, any impediments on our path. Back to its source, back to sender, back to their kin, unless it's your kin. Any ill will, any hex, any curse or negative energy sent my way, I seize it now with the strength of my will and the clarity of Mercury's mind. I wrap this harmful energy, I nullify its power over me, and through the crossroads opened by Legba, I command, return to sender! Send it back to its origin 3 times folded, reflected and returned. This shield I raise, this action I take, by my power, for my protection. We close this invocation, and we thank these entities, and we cleanse this ritual space, and return all energies back to its place. I give thanks to Legba for opening and closing the gates. I give thanks to Mercury for clarity, communication, and power. My will is manifested. My space is now clear. Peace be between us and you, as I speak it, so it becomes. The work is done. Aye Bobo! Peace profound. Now to the metaphorical story here, referencing today's aspects. In the vibrant heart of New Orleans, amidst the rhythmic pulse of jazz and the scent of bayonets, lived a young man named Leo, an aspiring magician with a complex astrological chart. His Mercury conjunct Mars in the 5th house granted him a quick, fiery wit and a dramatic flair, and energy he poured into his street performances. He was known for his sleight of hand and his charismatic patter that could charm the coins right out of the tourist hands. Yet, his communication style was often impulsive and argumentative, a reflection of the hot Martian energy driven his mercurial expression. Leo's greatest challenge was a stark Mercury opposition Uranus in the 8th house here. This aspect manifested as a disruptive communication style regarding shared resources, deep psychological issues, and a constant electric tension surrounding his secrets and transformative power. He struggled with the unstable energy of sudden inheritances or debts, and his attempts at serious probing conversations often led to a shocking, explosive argument or unexpected revelation that usually left him reeling. This energy also mirrored his internal struggle with the return to sender principle, a karmic boomerang effect where his sharp words and impulsive actions often came back to him with unexpected force. forcing him to confront the immediate consequences of his communication. He sought guidance from the spiritual world, specifically invoking Papa Legba, a voodoo loa who stands at the crossroads, the opener of the gates. Arlo, get out of there. Leo hoped Legba would help him navigate these communication blockages and the unpredictable turns that his life was taking. He made his offerings of candy and rum at the makeshift shrine, his prayers a humble plea for clarity and a less volatile path. His saving grace, however, was a harmonious Mercury trine Neptune sitting in the 9th house. This aspect lent him a deeply intuitive and imaginative mind, allowing him to weave fantastical stories and connect with a higher spiritual concept. It was through this trine that he found solace in the mystical, using his imagination to dream of possibilities beyond his current struggles, exploring philosophies and spiritual beliefs that transcended the harsh realities of his 8th house issues. Now, one day, while performing near a St. Louis cathedral, a mysterious, elegantly dressed woman with eyes like amber observed him. After his show, she approached him and handed him a single tarot card, the Magician. She smiled enigmatically and said, "All the tools you need are already within you, young man. The power is yours to command." The card's message resonated deeply with Leo. The Magician represented resourcefulness, power, and the ability to manifest one's desires using the 4 elements, the tools of the craft. It was a direct message from the universe, confirming what the aspects in his charts hinted at. He possessed the inherent skill to bridge the gap between the spiritual and the physical, to master his communication and to turn his challenges into opportunities. Inspired, Leo began to integrate these lessons. He learned to channel his fiery Mercury-Mars energy into focused intention and creative expression, not just impulsive speech. He used his Neptune trine to visualize his interactions before they happened, smoothing the rough edges of his communications to ensure things went exactly as anticipated and or planned on. He respected the return to sender principle, choosing his words carefully, understanding that what he sent out into the world would inevitably return. And it always does inevitably return. Keep that in mind. Now, Papa Legba, the silent observer at the crossroads, had opened the door not to an easy path, but to self-awareness. The magician's lesson was to embody this energy. Leo realized his true magic wasn't in the tricks he performed, but in his ability to consciously use the tools of his mind, his will, and his intuition to shape his own destiny, transforming the chaotic energy of his life into a harmonious and powerful performance. We got Mercury sitting in Sagittarius, applying the same concepts and logics above. We're going to use that narrative to run a story through this for metaphorical purposes and apply the shoe to fit where necessary. Eli, a young philosopher with Mercury in Sagittarius, possessed a mind as boundless as the open sea. His thoughts were a constellation of grand ideas and profound truths, and his words, when he spoke, were an unfiltered torrent of passionate convictions. He believed in telling it like it was, an honesty so blunt it often landed him in hot water. Eli's greatest lesson came from the principle of return to sender, the energy itself being a karmic boomerang he knew all too well. His tactless words, meant to enlighten, would often circle back as bruised feelings and broken friendships. Struggling with the consequences of his communication, Eli sought out the wisdom of Papa Legba, the gatekeeper of the spiritual crossroads. He journeyed to a secluded clearing at the edge of the city, leaving offerings of rum and tobacco. He didn't ask for his problems to disappear, but for the wisdom to master his own tongue. In silence at the crossroads, Eli saw a vision. A figure stood before him, holding a wand to the sky, pointing to the earth, and on the table before him lay all the tools, a cup, a sword, and a pentacle, representing the elements of his power. It was the Magician from the Tarot, a card representing potential and the ability to manifest with the resources at hand. The figure didn't speak, but its message was all too clear. The power to change his reality was not outside of him, but within him. Eli realized that his unfiltered Sagittarian love of truth was one of his most potent tools. The return to sender principle wasn't a punishment, but a direct consequence of his unrefined craft. He had all the necessary components for magic, but he had not learned to use them with intention. Until he did. He hadn't yet learned to channel his words as the magician channeled energy, bridging the gap between his expansive thoughts and their real-world impact. Inspired, he returned from the Crossroads with a new sense of purpose. He would still speak his truth, but with the focused intention of a master magician, turning his powerful, blunt energy into something constructive and life-affirming. Now, as I stated in the beginning, I have a powerful message from Papa Legba for somebody who tried to utilize this energy in a very, very unsolicited manner. Now, this is a master of keys and consequences, an omen of Legba sown by the supermoon. In the humid, moonless bayou, where the veil between worlds thinned to a whisper, the crossroads hummed with a dangerous energy. The ground was scorched where candles had burnt fiercely, but the spirits invoked were gone, leaving only the stench of hubris behind. A coven of practitioners, we'll call them the Iron Sigil, had performed an unthinkable act. They commanded Papa Legba, the revered Loa of the Gates, to turn his power against one of his own descendants, a young man named T, who had inadvertently slighted the coven leader. Now, they were not aware of this person's lineage because this person's lineage had been kept secret from the whole, intentionally. But I digress. They tried to use this energy to attack his own kin. Now, Papa Legba, usually a figure of wise, limping patience, an old man wit, rarely involving himself in mortal squabbles. He was a messenger, the opener of the way, a neutral facilitator, if you will. Unbiased, usually. But the Iron Sigil had not merely asked for a favor. They had used potent, binding magic, twisting the very laws of the spirit world to compel him to harm his bloodline. And they perceived him as indifferent due to his skin color and or background that they knew of. This transgression was a profound violation of natural law, an insult that demanded divine retribution. They did not know that this person had strong lineage based on their appearance, their upbringing, and what they thought they knew about them. It was almost like they were stolen as a child, and their information was switched, so they did not truly know the roots. Now, the old Loa did not rush. He put his own worn straw hat, hoisted his Potomitan staff over his shoulder, and smiled a toothless grin that made the mosquitoes buzzing nearby freeze in midair. He did not seek to destroy them immediately, for the spirits preferred a form of poetic justice over simple annihilation, which is a very easy tactic. Overkill is usually the go-to for mortals. He sought revenge in the form of a hard lesson, truth hammered home with the very tools the coven had abused. He began by returning their magic to its source, but not as the blunt, fiery force they had intended. Instead, he twisted the Iron Sigil's own words, binding them not to T, but to themselves. The leader of the coven, a woman named Mama Brigitte, found her silver tongue suddenly tied. When she tried to cast spells or issue commands, her words tangled into babbling rhymes and nonsensical phrases, rendering her magic useless. She, who used words as a weapon, now found herself a prisoner of her own incoherent language. It's as if it manifested as early onset dementia to the mundane world. Another coven member, a man who prided himself on his physical strength and ability to enforce the coven's will, suddenly found the crossroads appearing everywhere he looked. It's as if he knew death was upon his door. Every time he tried to move in a straight line down a hallway across the room, he would find himself abruptly turned around, disoriented and unable to reach his destination. Kind of like when you have a stroke and you're confused and you just have that sudden disorientation, like you're inebriated. The guardian of the gates had ensured his path was forever lost, his strong will bent by disorientation. The final member, the coven's intellectual and strategist, found all information, books, computers, conversations, suddenly too encrypted in strange symbols and languages they could not decipher. Papa Legba here, the master of communication, had ensured the flow of information was entirely blocked from her, leaving her plans and strategies adrift in a sea of ignorance. The Iron Sigil had invoked the master of communication to commit an unnatural act. In return, Papa Legba had simply removed their ability to communicate, navigate, or understand the world as they did previously. It's like being limited. It's like being moved from military till communication style down to civilian comprehension. Stripped of many, many, many abilities to see things beyond seeing things. They were isolated, helpless victims now of their own misguided magic. Their lives now a permanent testament to the danger of forcing a spirit to violate its own bloodline. The crossroads were open, but they were the only ones forbidden passage. So, let's make sure we're out here making good decisions and not trying to cast death magic and binding spells on people who might run circles around you later on. That's all I have for you guys today. Make good choices.